the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real, real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarms setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rider friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys.
And welcome everybody to PEN. Welcome to PEMA TV.
Welcome to Maya Gutton, December 21st, 2012.
And believe it or not, it's the 22nd already in New Zealand, and we're still here, so I think we're going to be safe.
Yeah. Once again, all the Mayan calendar meant was there would no longer be Twinkies.
Yeah, that's true. Isn't it wild how they could forecast that there would be no Twinkies?
Which is really sad. I
Who
like
knows?
Twinkies.
Who knows, maybe Twinkies will come back. Maybe 20 years, 2013 should be the year of the Twinkie.
No, 2013 is mine and Mary's year.
Yeah, that's true. Lots of good stuff going over here on the network. Real quick reminder, check out the link exchange page. If you have a website or a group page, you want to have a straight exchange of links, let us know. The search engine stuff helps everybody.
And start keeping an eye on the festivals page. Just saying.
Just saying. Also, we are still looking for a Western European or UK-based rep. If you're interested, please contact us. We might even be able to let you make a little money at it. It's up to you.
Wouldn't it be euro?
Euro, dollar. We'll pay you in rice, okay?
And chicken feathers.
And chicken feathers. Yeah, we got plenty of them. You can also use those as evidence, or some people have. Oh, I'm sorry. They're
I would like to send kudos out to the bikers up in Connecticut. 450 of them stood between Westboro and the principal's funeral yesterday or the day before. You guys, you get all my blessings.
Yeah. Ride safe. From what I've read about it, Westboro never even got out of the vans, which is probably a very good thing if 450 bikers were there in full leathers.
You know, if you're going to go after the government, go after the government. These people had nothing to do with anything.
That's
they
right.
were just pure victims. Leave them alone. Or don't make me go after you. I've already ruined one. I'll ruin another. I mean it.
I know you will. She's vicious too. Also, don't forget to tune in Sunday night. Well, tune in every night of the week, but Sunday night, Christiana's Psychic Cafe starts, and that should be a lot of fun.
Yes.
But even more important than that, directly ahead of her on a Sunday night on Hot Topics with Torch Paranormal, we're going to be interviewing. They're going to be interviewing Shane Harris, who is the surviving husband of Sarah Harris, who was the paranormal investigator that they think died from a lung infection she got while she was investigating. So we're also going to put a link up, not tonight, but sometime before then, we're going to put up another link for people can make donations to help him with some of his medical bills. We think it's very important that the paranormal kind of step up and help take care of one of their own during this kind of time. It really mean a lot.
And check out Monday, Tuesday. It's Christmas.
And we're going to have Christmas music all day Christmas Day.
Yeah, because Mary and I are taking the day off.
Well, no.
Monday
there will be a repeat of Just Saying and a repeat of Off the Wall. Tuesday, on Christmas Day, we will have music.
Yes.
So you can put us on in the background.
Yes. While you're cooking and ignoring the rest of your family.
Yeah, or on that third or fourth beverage to help deal with your family.
Or fourth or fifth sandwich to help deal with your family.
Yeah, well,
however you get through it.
That's right. However you get through your day. Anyway, tell your friends about it. Scream it from the mountaintops. Get them in here. Like us on Facebook. Anything else?
Merry Christmas.
Good night, folks. No, I'm kidding.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus for the rest of us.
I was going to try to say this at the end, but
I'm quick. Sorry.
Yeah, she gives me no warning. Happy holidays from us.
And the cat who's in the other room screaming.
Yeah, because she's that way. But please, be kind to each other this time of year. It's very important.
Be kind to the people in the stores.
Yeah.
If someone's trying to get something off the shelf, move your cart.
And
Today, oh my goodness,
I can only imagine.
I had to come home.
I'm sure you did.
It was going to get dangerous out there if I didn't go home. I spent 5 minutes standing there waiting for a lady to move her cart to get a package of bacon.
I don't moved her cart.
She was bigger than me. Not taller, just bigger.
Bigger, yeah, well, okay. Happy holidays, folks. But tonight,
we have a special guest. Someone we haven't had on before. He is known as the Grave Stalker.
the Graveyard Stalker.
The Graveyard Stalker, Mr. Dan Clay. Hi, Dan.
Hello, how you guys doing?
We are doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful.
How's the weather up there? Snotty?
Cold, windy. We looked out, no snow, but cold, 50-mile-an-hour winds. And other than that, like I said, we lucked out on the snow part. But right now we have 50-mile-an-hour winds outside.
Well, now, Dan, I want you to explain to all our viewers, if you would, Paranormal Night Stalker. Not Night Stalker. The Graveyard Stalker. How does one come by that moniker?
Good question. More or less something I conjured up myself. Okay. Actually, I was called it by a couple friends, I should say. I just started out as a hobby, just photographing gravestones, and it just led into an obsession. And so I consider myself a graveyard stalker.
Now, just so everybody understands, when you start talking about being a stalker, you're actually you're a documentarian to a certain degree.
Yes.
Taking pictures,
Yes.
documenting.
Yes, that's what I do. I do a lot of research on certain. If I find a graveyard that's very interesting, if a certain stone stands out, I will research it, and I dig as deep into it as I can, to find out, to go back as far as I can on the history of the person that's buried there, what happened to them, how they passed away, and I do a lot of the crime scene graveyard photography also. There's been a lot of unsolved crimes here in town, and I have located the crime locations, which I photograph. I do the research to find the actual graveyard, the grave site where the person is buried. And like I said, I dig as deep into the history of that person as I can. And I mean, deep. No pun intended. I just caught that.
Well, Cynthia and I kind of did that too in Lebanon, Texas. We found a really interesting case, and we just dug and dug and dug. We're still trying to figure out how a 14-year-old murderer or 16-year-old murderer didn't wind up in jail ever, but we'll figure it out eventually.
Well, and the historical aspects of this, it's important for active paranormal researchers to know that the skills that you're using, they're important because you need to use them in all aspects of doing a thorough investigation anywhere.
Right, yes.
What got you started?
Actually, what got me started, I had just posted this on my page, just recently, because somebody had asked me this question. It would have been in 2007. I watched a movie, DVD that I had rented, just happened to catch my eye. I read the back of it. It was called An American Crime. And it was the true story of Sylvia Likens, who was, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the story of her. She was, her and her sister were two children of carnies, and they were left with a lady and her family in Indianapolis, and it ended up, being abuse, which resulted in the death of Sylvia, being tortured, abused and tortured. And it just, the movie itself really, really hit me. I mean, it was just, I don't know, there was just something that really hit me. And that's what got me started. My first trip was to Indianapolis. I actually have pictures on my page where I stood on the front porch of the actual house. Sounds kind of morbid, but the actual house where Sylvia was tortured and died in. I had put my video camera down in the basement window where the boards were ripped off. That's the room she was tortured and killed in. Then I went and I found the children's memorial that they had set up for her. Well, the Sylvia Likens memorial, which actually her murder had started the child protection laws across the United States.
Right.
And I did go to another section of Indianapolis where I found her gravesite. And it was just something about that got me started. My next stop from there was Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis, and the rest is history.
Right, and for those people that look for you, they can look for Dan Clay on Facebook.
Yes, there's actually two. One says son, that's my son, okay? And then the other one, you don't notice it because it's me beside of a gravestone in Chicago. It's the girl inside the glass box. Chicago.
And the people need to be ready because if you go look at Dan's pictures, you're going to be there a minute.
Oh, yes. I have quite a few, and some of them, like I said, I've researched a lot of crime scenes, and I do have some pictures that I have pulled up that, there's only maybe 2 crime scenes that I actually got graphic pictures, in my albums, and I do have it marked, warning does contain graphic photos. And I also run a page called Grave Fixations also, which I do tours of the crime scenes and graveyards here locally. Well, actually, I should say I'm starting it up in the spring of next year. And this is, if you can actually see it, this tells, it's Toledo's only crime scene and cemeteries tours, up close and personal, and these tours are done by appointment only, and they're done with dignity and respect. There's no jokingly, no amusement involved in these tours. It's done strictly with, like I said, with privacy and respect.
As it should be.
Yes. Because, this tour does consist of probably, I'm guessing, 25 different stops, of crime scenes all throughout the area. And the biggest one that caught my attention was the Nevaeh Buchanan case in Monroe, Michigan, where I have been up to her grave. I couldn't tell you how many times. It's an unsolved murder. She was 5 years old. And I do have pictures of the actual crime scene where her body was found. She was buried alive. And I do have pictures of her gravesite, which, I've been up there numerous times. And that's what I'm waiting for her murder to be solved.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the paranormal, sometimes we just got to kind of step in and see what we can pull up. I mean, every little bit helps. Whether the officials take us seriously or not is to be seen. And from what I understand, there's like 5 or 6 states that are passing laws that say you can't go in and say you're a psychic, you're a numerologist,
right.
none of the metaphysical stuff whatsoever to assist in any of this.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, there's some pretty serious state laws being. Basically, if you're a psychic, you're not going to be allowed. You're not by state law. You're not going to be allowed to advertise that anywhere.
Yeah, it's like Kentucky, Tennessee, Illinois.
They're working on it here in Texas, I think, and a couple others.
No, Texas isn't on there. Ohio,
Sure?
yeah. Indiana, it's
I
up
know
in
they
that area.
did use them. Yeah, they did use psychics up in Monroe on the Nevaeh case. They did use psychics
Well,
there.
see, that's the thing is the police departments will still use them, and they will still refer to them, and they will still go check out leads if they get phoned in from one, but you can't make a living in the state being one.
What it says is you can't pass out any flyers, any type of advertisement whatsoever claiming this.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
Totally beside the point. I know we had talked about this off air, and I wanted to bring this up for everybody. And I know you're a huge advocate of this, about maintaining cemeteries and helping to preserve the history.
Yes.
We know for a fact there's several groups that we've been associated with on and off that's how they help the community is to go take I don't want to say disused, but an ignored cemetery and go in there at least once a year and weed eat and clean up, mow, that kind of thing, and just basically straighten the place up.
Put the gravestones back where they belong.
Yeah, to the best of their ability.
Oh, yes. Yes, actually, I did, I started up kind of a business a couple years ago, which wasn't really a business. It was just an idea. It was called TLC Gravestone Cleaning Services. And that was something that, I did do. I'd go around, cleaning up gravestones for the cemeteries are required only to do so much. So the rest of it is left up to, the family, if there is any family left. And a lot of times the people, they do live out of state. And that was one of my, concerns. If you live out of state and you have family buried here, you can't maintain the gravesite. I'm open for it. I mean, we would set up decorations for birthdays, holidays, whatever celebrations. Clean up everything around the gravestone, seasonal cleanup. Maintain the gravesite. And if whatever it was, bird droppings, whatever was on the gravestone. Clean them up and make them look decent.
Well, a lot of the older, very much older stones, I mean, a lot of the family are gone, are just absolutely have no clue where their family's buried.
Right.
So I think it's a good service, and we've been in cemeteries to where I'm like, Eric, pick up that stone, set it back up.
Yeah. Yes, that's one of my kind of, I don't know if it's called a bad habit or just a good habit, but I go out here to a cemetery where a lot of my family's at, and I'm the same way. I'll walk the cemetery, just looking at different gravestones. And every time I go, I find one I've never seen before, and I could have walked past it 10 times. But I'll walk around. I pick up I pick up sticks, twigs, whatever. And if I would happen to have my clippers with me, I'll clip the weeds, that's around the stones. If I have a rag with me, I'll wipe the stone down. Or if stuff is blowed off, I try to find where it came from, and I put it back on the grave. Just redecorate it the way it was, set up.
Right. The good thing about, we were talking about Calvary and Bellefontaine neighbor cemeteries earlier. The good thing about them is they really do a good job keeping the place well maintained.
Right.
The only thing they're not real big on is if a stone gets damaged, they kind of put it back with the grave, but they don't actually fix it.
Right.
Okay.
But I think a lot of that has to do with liability too, though. I think.
Right. There's a couple cemeteries here. Lake Township is one. If there is damage done to the stone, they do replace the stones, or I shouldn't say replace them. They'll fix them, the best that they can, instead of just laying it back there. But we was hit hard, probably within the last year and a half to 2 years ago with cemeteries here locally being severely vandalized. But they ended up catching the people that had done it, and like I said, I'm not sure though, who paid for it, but there was a lot of damage.
That's
And
horrible. There's no reason for that.
No, there's not. I mean, I read stuff like that, and it just, to me, I don't understand, the joy. There is no joy. I don't understand what's behind the fascination or the ignorance of that.
The ignorance, because there is no fascination.
That's right. That's right. It's the ignorance.
It's a total show of disrespect,
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
We have, us Western Europeans, we have enough hang-ups about death and life as it is, but to go through and disrespect a memorial, I mean, come on.
I won't even walk across the grave, let alone mess with someone's stone. That's horrible.
I'm not going to say she's fun to take to a graveyard, but she's fun to take to a graveyard.
Yeah.
I walk around apologizing a whole lot.
Ooh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. It's not. It's very polite and it's very genteel, but it's also kind of cute.
That's good. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has their own ways of dealing with it.
And a few things have answered. That's what's cool about it, is a few things have answered. We have had a thank you here and there. So, yeah.
Yes, that's great. Hey, that's great. Yes, it is.
Well, it's like when we went to the one over in Prairie de Roche, and I was talking to the babies, and we walked away, and you could hear them talking.
Mm-hmm. Did you, are you planning on creating a book at some point with these various pictures in them?
Actually, my intentions are a DVD.
Gotcha.
That's my intentions. I prefer that over the book, as me. I can do it myself. So I prefer the DVD. In time. And that's also what I plan on doing with the graveyard. Tours and that. I plan on eventually setting all that up on DVD also.
Right.
It's just a matter of time.
Right. Can you give our viewers, if they happen to come across, from your experience with cleaning them, if they happen to come across an older, let's say it's a mostly limestone memorial, can you give them some hints or tips that they could use to better take care of something that would be that fragile?
As far as limestone, the best thing that you can use that I have used actually is clean, clear, natural spring water. That's the only thing that you can really use, and you saturate the stone. The very first thing that you do, you saturate it, because that loosens everything off of it. You use a very, very fine bristled brush. You start from the bottom, you work your way up, because that prevents streaks. And if the stones are in any way damaged, my best advice is you don't touch them. That's my best advice.
Right.
Just don't.
Right. Well, I know.
You,
because I know for how many, it's been a hobby for hundreds of years, the
gravestone etchings.
The etchings. But
Yes.
what you're doing is almost a digital version of that to a certain degree.
Right, yes.
Well, those ones in St. Louis, a lot of the stones have that black
Yeah, the pollution.
moss.
The pollution and
Yeah.
Right, that forms from the ground and grows up. It's a form of mold. And see, now when I did it, the best thing that I used at that time, I used all natural green cleaner is what I used. It was, I couldn't tell you the ingredients. I bought it. I had researched it online, and it said use green clean. That's what I had purchased. You saturate the mold, and it does remove the mold from the bottom of the stones. And that's basically what it is. It starts at the ground, the base, where the stone sits on the base, and that's where the mold forms around. And that's what I've always found best for removing the mold.
Well,
Right.
the problem with the ones in St. Louis is most of them that have that black on there are enclosed. It's like a statue of some kind, but they're usually enclosed in a cage or a box or
Okay.
something.
Or there's some other, I don't want to say monolith, but some other monument. They're inside of something.
Like inside
Underneath.
a concrete pavilion or what have you.
But even the ones that are exposed, you can tell the ones that face north and the ones that face south because of the sides of the face that, especially like in the nose or whatever, where they will get caught. It's not always a shadow. Sometimes that's just where the pollution has been settled, and the other side is the more windblown side where it doesn't have a chance to settle.
Okay.
I've noticed that on some of the pictures. You can almost tell which way they face, or predominantly which way the wind blows and wherever they're located, because of how the pollution settles.
Right, right.
Well, it's like moss grows on the north side of the tree. It's
Yeah,
basically the
yeah.
same thing with the statues.
Yes.
What's the most you've been to just a few places, and I don't want to play, you know, Johnny Cash's "I've been everywhere" man in the background, but damn, dude, you've been everywhere.
I've been to quite a few places. Yes, yes. I mean, as far as I've been to Salem, Massachusetts. I've done a lot of great photography there. I've been to Gettysburg, done a lot of great photography there. Indianapolis, to Chicago, and then as far as I do a lot of abandoned building photography, and that's part of my deal also. I've been to Waverly Hills. I've been to Mansfield Reformatory. I've been there numerous times. I've done several overnight lockdowns at Mansfield. I've been to, gosh, I can't even think of everything.
How far south have you been?
How far south I've been is Waverly Hills in Louisville, Kentucky.
Do you notice that there are regional differences in cemeteries? Like maybe style, design, that kind of thing, layout, or did people pretty much get plopped in the same way everywhere?
I would say my opinion varies more through the age. You know, the decades, centuries, whatever. I wouldn't really say according. Well, now if you go into like Louisiana, yes, the way that they are set up there, right. You know. But as far as my opinion, the majority of the graveyards are more or less the same. You know, I would, like I said, I would go from like the 1700s, 1800s, 1900s. That to me is the change. Is there? You know, the change doesn't really go, you know, through different zones. I wouldn't say that.
Well, I think we found that depending on the area and the age of the cemetery, the older it is and the more northeast it gets, the more decorative the stones become.
Okay. Okay. Now, see, we have one here in Dayton, Ohio, which is Woodlawn, and that has a lot of the statues, you know, that date back quite a few years. And that is a very, very historic, very large cemetery there. And the majority of everything there is statues, you know, that have been, you know, through the years. You know, so we have the one here in Ohio, and then we have historic Woodlawn Cemetery here, which is local, and that has quite a few of the, you know, statues. And then I would say, as far east as I've been, I don't really, to me, I don't recall seeing that many statues, you know, east.
Well, like in St. Louis, like Calvary Cemetery, it's a lot of modelists. Mm-hmm. And obelisks and the statues and that kind of thing, but down here in Texas, they're basically all the
more of a monument, stone, flat stone,
like a tombstone, like you would expect a tombstone. But when we went to Prairie du Roche, where it was pre-revolutionary, a lot of them were made out of metal. I mean, yeah. Like crosses and stuff was just pieces of pipe, or someone had...
I've seen quite a few of those also, right. Yes.
But like I said, depending on the age and the location, they really tend to vary.
Okay. Okay. See, I've never... the farthest I've been out west, I went to the state of Nevada. Actually, we went there for a wedding, and we had looked up a friend of my wife's who had moved there, and she passed away, and we had found went all the way to Vegas, and we actually found her gravestone there. And see, that's how the majority of them are in Vegas too. They are all flat, and just flat stones.
Right.
Well, and not to overstate the obvious, and I didn't really want to get into graveyard etiquette, but I do have another question for you. It all depends on money, doesn't it?
Oh yes, it does. Yes, that makes a big difference.
Because
yes.
I know from our experience, like the picture that's up now is from Calvary Cemetery in St. Louis, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that is the Archdiocese.
That's the nuns' cemetery.
Is that the nuns' cemetery?
Yeah, that's
okay.
where the nuns are.
My question being, everything that you see that's probably pre 1970 is for sure hand carved. Almost everything was hand carved, one done by a machine. But when you start getting past into the early part of the 19th century, late 18th century, that's when you get the huge statues, the great carving and stuff that goes with all that.
Where a lot of people actually had the statues to look like
them,
the person.
Right.
Especially children.
But my question being, what do you think about all this new laser imprinted stuff?
Actually, I find it kind of interesting myself. I have seen quite a few. We have a cemetery here in town. It is St. Joseph's Cemetery, which there's a million St. Joseph cemeteries. But there's quite a few stones, and it's mainly I would say teenagers to mid-20s or so that have passed away, where the newer stones, are all laser etched with, either their photographs, which to me, that's the ultimate, is the one that has their photograph in it, or an image of what their hobby was, or it can even have a saying, that like their favorite saying. I mean, I find those are just, so fascinating.
Right.
Well, I think the strangest one we saw was at Calvary, over by where the priest from
the senator.
There was a senator. They had this thing was absolutely huge, but it had like a train on it and this weird rainbow. And I mean, it was all painted and colored, and it was crazy.
Have you ever had that one really tattooed friend that really couldn't make up his mind what he wanted his tattoos theme to be?
Yes.
And he kind of had stuff all over. That's sort of like
this marker.
This marker.
And it was a Missouri senator.
He was like a member of the oh my goodness,
History of Transportation.
the G. What's the one with the G? Oh my goodness.
The Mormons.
No, not the Mormons.
Oh, okay. Knights of Columbus.
Knights of Columbus, or
yeah.
One of the. Anyway, he had their huge symbol up on the corner. In the diagonal from that, there was a huge, and by huge, I mean this thing. The etching itself was like 3 foot long and 1 foot tall, of a train, because he had been one of the first transportation secretaries and had gotten all kinds of contracts. He had like ABC, like written like school. Oh my god! Like I said, there was nothing.
There was nothing standard on this thing at all, and I mean, like. The thing was probably 6 or 8 feet wide and about
14 foot wide and a good 4 or 5 foot tall.
And like a third of it was nothing but this weird rainbow.
It sounds different. It's really different on that.
I mean, but also over there too is you had like here. Let me switch it over here now. The picture that we're showing now is of a gravestone that's between the road that actually goes on the edge of Calvary and Bell Fountain Neighbors Cemetery.
It's the Angel of Sorrow.
And she's got her head down over the top of a stone. And when you actually, I don't have them loaded, but we actually have pictures when you go to the side and the back, there's an actual body carved behind. And her wings, it's not just all like in the front and kind of flat in the back. Her entire body was carved behind it.
All the way to the toes and everything else.
Yeah.
The reason why I took this particular one is it's been said, rumored, what have you, that when people drive between the cemeteries late at night, she's been seen to raise her head and wave to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you run across?
That's interesting.
Do you run across stories like that in some of the places?
Oh yes, I do. When me and my wife went to Chicago, and we had actually went to Al Capone's grave, And what I did, there was a grave, another grave in there that I was looking for, and it was a lady sealed inside of a case that was supposedly laying down. And I had actually, we had got in there probably 20 minutes before the guy was locking the gates. And, you know, he had come over. Well, I approached him, I should say. And I was talking to him about it, and he told me that there's no grave site there like that. But he did direct to on where the story was. The lady's daughter was getting married. She had passed away that night. They buried her in her wedding dress. Mm-hmm. And this is actually documented. I have the pictures on my page, and you can even look this up on the internet. She kept having the dream that her daughter was still alive. And she also was not buried with her shoes. And the mother had wanted her body exhumed and the shoes buried on her. So 6 months later, they had exhumed the body, and the body was in perfect condition, as though it was never, I mean, as though it was just, as she just recently passed away. They took a picture of her, and it's placed on the outside of the grave, that picture. And they did put the shoes back on her, and they reburied her. And, I mean, that story, you know, is really interesting for that one. They called her, oh my God, I can't even think of what it is right now. Like I said, it's in my pictures.
I've seen the pictures on the internet before. I can't remember what exactly it's called, but someone had mentioned it before, so I went and Googled it to find out what the heck it was all about. Yeah. Because we were only like 4.5 hours from Chicago at the time.
Have you, and I'm sure you're a fan of this, but you always have permission to, if you go to a private cemetery, you find permission. If it's a public cemetery, you're following all the curfew laws and all that stuff too.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do. Yes. Yeah. I mean, I gotta say, I have the utmost respect, probably more respect, in my opinion, more respect than anybody else in this world for a cemetery. Right. Yes, I do. Yes. I do not go on private ground unless, you know, I would get permission. And then, like I say, you know, as far as other cemeteries, yes, I do not violate no laws whatsoever. None.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you'll agree the penalties are to be a little stiffer for those that do.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, they should be. Yes.
Well, if you don't have permission, you're either out there snooping around or you're up to no good. Either way, you...
Right. 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 They've had a lot of the copper emblems on the veterans stones that have been, you know, pried off the stones here, and you know they take it to the scrapyard here, but it's you know, they're never found again.
Do you have you found any? And I'm going to ask this because we have somebody in the chat room that was saying that there's a ship captain's daughter near where she's at, who died at sea. She was placed in a barrel of rum, and then when they got to Wilmington where she's buried, they actually buried her in the barrel. But with something bizarre like that being mentioned, what's the most unusual, in your opinion, what's the most unusual stone, monolith, statue that you've come across to commemorate somebody?
Actually, there's two that come to mind. One is here in town at the historic Woodlawn Cemetery. It's the Gunkel Pyramid. And it was the Gunkel family. It's Gunkle. And if you go into the historic Woodlawn Cemetery, Toledo, Ohio, you know, type in, or you can look up the Gunkel Pyramid. And it was a very wealthy family. And I'm wanting to guesstimate the pyramid is probably 40 feet tall. It started out as the old newsboys putting rocks on the grave, and it eventually resulted in a 40-foot pyramid, and it has rocks that have been shipped in from all around the world. There's I'm not sure the pronunciation, agnets. There's stones that are shipped from China, from the Great Wall of China. There's I mean, there's so many different kinds of stones on this, and I have pictures on my Facebook as well. Then in just outside of Monroe, Michigan, there's one, and it's a plaque. It's probably a 6-foot plaque, and it has a woman's image standing there, and she is carving into the stone. It says, "He served our country." and it's a soldier's grave. And I mean, this is just, to see this stone, it's just, you think, the emotion and that was put into this, the detail, it's just unbelievable. It's really unbelievable.
Yeah, our time that we spent, we actually spent, I think, 3 total days at Calvary. Not in a row. We didn't just go camp. But every Saturday that we ever went there, it was like, well, let's go walk around the cemetery for a couple hours, take some pictures. And every time we went, we ended up showing up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was getting dark every time we left. We ended up staying there 5, 6, 7 hours, just walking around, looking at the different stones, the artwork. Oh my God, the artwork! Growing up, I've been to everybody's been to a graveyard at one point in time.
Right.
But being younger, I never appreciated the artwork that went into some of these stones and some of the stuff that I saw at Calvary. Because like Kim said, the further north you get, the more ornate generally they get. There's some very fancy graveyards here in Texas, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, it's a flat stone kind of deal. The further north you get, sometimes the more ornate they get. And oh my goodness, just some of the artwork up there, it's just not only realistic, but it's eerily. Especially some of the human forms are very eerie, and they're like the pictures. They're like the pictures that look at you no matter where you stand. It's just kind of freaky that way.
There's one in Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis that's of a 4-year-old girl, and it's a life-size statue. She was a general's daughter, back in I want to say the 1800s, and she had passed away from. It was complications of the flu or something that was going around. And the general actually had a life-size statue of her made, and it stands over her gravestone. And I mean, if you look at this, it's just like the little girl herself is standing there.
Right.
I mean, it's a very, eerie kind of one. I had a little stuffed kitty in my car at the time when I went there, and she's standing there. Somebody put flowers in her hand, and I had put the little stuffed kitten at the base of her feet. I've done that.
At Calvary, there's 2 of them. There's one of a baby in a old buggy, the kind that had the hood that came up and down.
Right. Okay.
There's one like that, and then there's one not too far from it, like 20, 30 feet, of a little boy playing in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm. They also had one there in Calvary too. The one that sticks out of my mind, or the most unusual that I saw that was there,
seashells,
was the one that was Hawaiian. The person was, I believe, Hawaiian, wasn't they?
No, I think that's where they actually spent their honeymoon, and that's just where they like to be.
But it was almost a I don't want to say a death totem, but that's what it looked like, and then it was a pole, but glued onto the pillar. I guess it was more of a pillar because it was made of stone.
Right.
But glued onto the pillar were these huge seashells, conch shells and stuff, all the way up. And this is like a 35 or 40 foot tall pole. This is not some little,
Wow.
I mean, it's huge.
And it's
memorializing.
Right.
And it was completely covered there, other than where pieces had broke off. Those are the only places you could tell it was actually a concrete pole.
Right. It had been completely covered at one point in time. And part of it had rope around it, and it was just it's interesting to see that, even
that one's
in a different culture.
That one was a sea captain's wife.
Might have been. Very well, I think you're correct.
Yeah, because the one next to it, with the long layout and everything, had the pictures of the Hawaiian couple. Yeah.
Another one that stands out that I've seen in Dayton, Ohio, at the Woodlawn Cemetery, and the story, it's a little boy statue, and there's a dog curled up in front of the statue. It's a life-size statue of the boy and the dog. Where he was one of the very first that was buried in the cemetery. There was a canal that ran through, and the little boy was on the ice in the wintertime, and he fell through and he drowned. And when they buried him, his dog refused to leave the grave, and his dog eventually died there on the grave. So they had buried the dog with the boy. They had, reburied, or I'm sorry, just buried the dog there, and they made a statue of the dog, and they put the base of the boy. last time I was there, somebody put an Ohio State jacket on the boy statue. They decorated at different times, is what they do.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting.
We've run across them to where they've, like for Halloween, they've gone out there and put candy and, different holidays and such, especially for the little ones.
Yeah. Have you ever, in your experience, I know you do mostly stones, do you ever do anything inside of like a mausoleum? Or take any pictures on that way, or?
I've taken pictures inside, through either the opening, or if there's a wide enough opening, I've stuck my camera inside and taken pictures. But I've never really been able to access one.
Well, I
guess
I
have taken pictures through the windows, or like I said, in Moundsville, West Virginia, there was actually some that were broke in half and cracked, and I just stuck my camera inside, and snapped with flash.
Well, I guess maybe I'm not calling them the right thing, but it's where ashes are interned, and I understand what you're saying about the mausoleums being like a.
Okay, yes.
But I'm talking the great big, like sometimes two-story buildings
where
they have the different plaques on the wall.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I have. I've been in quite a few of those. Yes.
Because I know some of the plaques inside the ones that I've seen, some of the plaques that are put on there, they're not all uniform all the time. Sometimes the plaques that they put on there, once again, the metalwork and the carving that goes into them it's incredible.
Oh yeah, yes, very nice, yes.
Well, I'm going to ask this just because I'm curious as hell. When you go, what do you want as your headstone?
Don't look behind you, or look behind you, or don't look behind you. I'm here.
Right.
Like that, and I don't know. I've thought about that, quite a bit. And to me, I think, that's the one that mostly stands out. Or I'm somewhere here in this cemetery. I'm behind you, or something like that. Picture with my camera, and hey, I'm right behind you.
I was like the one that said, "I told you I was sick." I always thought that was just classic.
Yeah, I was just one recently the other day that's local out here, and it's kind of by Davis Bessie, the nuclear power plant here, and the stone actually had just a name, it had the date, and it said he got what he deserved. And it just kind of, because I thought, wonder what the story behind that is. But I have no way of finding out.
Right.
Mine's going to say, can't get rid of me that easy.
Right.
I've seen some unique ones, man, very unique sayings.
What is there a particular, if somebody was going to go by a monument, is there a particular stone that you would suggest from your seeing? Is there one that you've seen that tends to wear better than others?
Okay, I'm sorry, no.
What material, if you were going to build your perfect gravestone, what material would you use? What stone? What type of stone?
I would say granite or marble. That would be one of the two best. I would actually prefer marble. That withstands all weather conditions. That withstands time itself. Marble.
Yeah. What about you?
Me?
No, I'm talking to my lovely assistant here.
Oh, okay.
Mine ain't going nowhere.
I know, but what do you want it made out of?
I don't know, something pretty.
I've seen them from wood to metal to granite, to slate, marble, everything in between. What catches my attention a lot is the tree, monuments also.
Right. If you notice that a lot of Celtic.
I was going to say Eric's favorite of the Celtics.
Right, and to answer before anybody asks me, I'll tell you, I want to be expensive. I want to be the whole Viking funeral thing. I want you to put me in the middle of a boat, light it on fire, and push it out in the water.
Yeah.
There's actually places that offer that service. It's expensive, but there's places that offer.
Nope, I'm shipping them down the Trinity River, or the Red River. You're going to see a little canoe on fire. That's going to be him.
I'll get barbecued in the middle of a John boat in the middle of a stock pond.
That's
somewhere.
right.
I think if you have the money, anything's possible.
Yeah. Well, look at Disney.
Yes, exactly.
Have you noticed? Have you noticed going from place to place to place? Is there one particular style that seems to cross all boundaries? Is there one particular thing that you tend to see everywhere? And the reason I ask is this will help the viewers understand that if they actually go there, it's not unusual to see this everywhere you go.
I would say the one that I have seen, my God, probably just about every cemetery I have ever been to is the tree. You know, like the half tree. You know, that's one that, like I say, you know, to me it's an unusual monument. And the symbol, I was told, it means it was a life cut short.
Right.
That's why it's, you know, only half of a tree base itself. You know, but that's the one I would say is the trees.
Right. I know there was a lot of a very large Irish, I don't want to say contingent, but there was a large Irish population there in St. Louis, and sprinkled throughout Calvary are these just the ornate knotwork type
Celtic knot
crosses and I don't want to say obelisks, but they're not crosses in shape. They're different shapes, but it's the same motif. And oh my goodness, the stonework! It'll blow your mind. You know, especially if you've ever tried to chisel stone, even to just do your name or the letter I.
Well, that one place in Rolla had that really cool outside the mausoleum. They had a family, I guess. Remember, they had the pictures. It was four-sided, and each side had the husband and the wife with their pictures, the engravings, their dates, the whole 9 yards, and then it was sealed in plastic. But the entire mausoleum was sealed in glass.
Yeah.
But that's the same place where it was right before Halloween, and someone had decorated an entire grave with bats and the skull and all kinds of.
But didn't we find out too that the people that they decorated that was their favorite holiday, and that was just as a memorial to them. Every Halloween, one of the family members went out there and basically dolled the place up.
And they went all out. I mean,
yeah.
They took an entire area and skulls and bats and spider webs and vampires and everything out there for this one.
And it was almost the kind of thing you look at and you're like, you know, damn kids, and then you hear the story behind it and you're like, wow, whoa, wait a minute, you know, that's really cool.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
Because
I agree.
They actually had to go out there with a ladder to get that skull up on top of that one stone.
And I had to put it back.
Right.
Yeah. It was actually a skull. It was actually a skull that was supposed to be mounted on top of the stone that had broken off. And I was the only one of our group because of my orangutan arms.
Put it back, right?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's great. That's great.
We also is there any rituals that you know that we do with death that to you seem like a waste of time? Just in your opinion, is there anything that we do generally as a society?
No.
Yeah.
No, I couldn't say. To me, any form of a funeral, of a showing, cremation, no matter what it involves, to me, any form whatsoever is showing with respect. It's either what the person had wanted, what the person requests, what the family wanted. No, I don't see anything, you know, that would be wrong.
Right.
Like I say, you know, it's each person is different, and I can't say, you know, no, that type would be wrong, or no, I do not.
Right. Well, no, I was just curious.
I want a party. The heck with the crying. Don't sit there and, you know, oh boo-hoo. Heck no.
Oh, I'm gonna
Rip it up.
I've seen them like that
at
cemeteries. I've seen a biker party at the cemetery over a gravestone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they will go out there, and if the guy was a drinker, they all take his favorite drink, and they take a shot and give him one.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Which I think is very cool.
Yeah. There's a whole but isn't it strange how, because I know Kim and I have preached about this before on the shows about, you know, how it's important to do what we do respectfully.
Right.
That's the biggest thing having to do with having anything to do around a graveyard. Everything you do there should be done respectfully. This is holy ground. It is hallowed ground. It should be treated as such.
Yes, yep, I agree. I agree 200%. Yes.
Have you ever gone into a cemetery and it's like you could actually see the past of someone's funeral?
Oh, okay. Now, I'm sorry.
Okay, when we went to Calvary, there's this one section to where, as soon as we pull up, I can like literally see the carriage being pulled by the horses, the ladies in the black dresses.
Okay. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. According through the history of the stones, I can sense that myself also. Yes.
It's the weirdest sensation. I mean, it's sad, but it's not sad. It's
right.
It's one of those to where, these people put a lot into this moment.
Oh, yes, they do. Yes.
And 9 times out of 10, it's just to repay somebody for what they did during life, and they couldn't show them during life, so they're going to show them in death. And that, once again, like you said, it's all about showing respect and being respectful of their wishes.
Yes, it is.
I know you go and take a lot of pictures and all that kind of stuff, but have you actually investigated in a grave?
You know what I did? Okay, like I said, Lake Township Cemetery in Walbridge, Ohio, which is just basically a couple miles from my house here. We have family out there. My mother's buried out there, and quite a bit of our family is. And we was out there one day, and I had my camera, and we was visiting a family member's grave, and there was a very, very, very strong odor of Bengay, like a Bengay type lotion that came over us, and it was so odd. There was no wind blowing, there was nothing, as still as could be. And I did turn my camera on, record. It's does everything. I got a very expensive camera, so I had walked around talking. I said, hey, I have the smell here. I mean, can you lead me to your grave, or whatever, or say something that I didn't get anything out of it. But then me and my wife, we had walked around a little bit, and just as fast as the smell was there, the smell was gone. But I got nothing on camera, nothing on camera, no sound or anything. But it was a very, very, very odd, very interesting situation.
Right. I think the only thing we really ever got was the babies.
Well, and that voice that wanted to look at that camera that night.
Oh yeah, we were down. Our first cemetery is an old country cemetery. Well, it's not really old, but it's a very small country town cemetery, Schaefer Road, and we went down there, and it's completely open. I mean, anybody can go there at any time as long as you're respectful. And we get out, and we're walking around, and the third person with us stepped out of the truck, hit the recorder, and was messing around with cameras and stuff. And we actually got a guy's voice saying, "Can I see the camera?" And then there's a pause, and he's like, "Guess not." Like, you're not listening to me, so I guess that's a no.
Now, the same cemetery that I was just talking about, there is a group here, that has done an investigation out there, which, when it closes, you do have to get the permission. And it is the northeast corner of the cemetery where they claim a lot of paranormal activity is. So I did go out there one time. Just once it gets dark, you're allowed in the cemetery up to 1 hour after darkness. So I did walk through, taking pictures, and recording, but I didn't pick up anything at all.
The only other time we picked up anything was over in Prairie du Roche, and there's this family there that lost like 8 children. Yeah. But one of the stones says twins and one says triplets.
Yeah.
And their birth and death days are the same day. And I always go, when we went there, I would always go and talk to the triplets. I have no idea why, but as soon as we started to walk away, you could hear like a little kid's giggle.
Yeah.
But I tend to be drawn to children anyway, but
I'm the same way.
But the
Yes.
but the stone just said like Hanson triplets,
Yeah.
not boys or girls. It was just Hanson triplets.
True, but back up until it wasn't until recently that they started forcing people to put a name.
Right.
When they died like that, it was the Hanson triplets.
Right.
Or,
It was like 1898 or something. But
I've seen stones like that also. Yes.
but it just broke my heart because they had like 5 in 2 graves, and then they had 3 more right next to it that never made it past like 3 or 4.
and you can also kind of see, like, especially the older cemeteries, late 1800s, early 1900s, you can also see the years when there were tuberculosis outbreaks or
Smallpox.
or typhoid or smallpox, because you'll see a few with this date, and then you'll see a whole bunch with this date range, and then a few with this date range, and a whole bunch with that date range. It's interesting, the history that you can learn that way when you go start cross-referencing it.
Now we have one here in Port Clinton, Ohio, that is like that. Now that's 20 miles from me, and it's a grave like that, and it was a mass burial in one spot, and it was a bunch of people that died from the fever also. It's just a mass burial in one spot, and they have one marker. It lists all their names on it.
And I'm pretty sure you'll agree with this, but even like some of the slave cemeteries, some of the cemeteries that were thrown together for the Native Americans when they were forced to move around all over, those need to be treated with the same respect.
Oh yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. To me, if it's a cemetery, I mean, a cemetery is a cemetery to me. I mean, it doesn't matter. If it's one single stone, even if they're unmarked graves, but whatever. I've been to mental institutions, cemeteries. I've been to Indian cemeteries. I've been to Indian burial grounds, to the mounds themselves. That to me, I mean, respect is respect.
Amen.
No matter what they are.
Amen.
Thank you.
Well, everything we do in this field should be done with respect,
I agree.
because
Yes.
we're dealing with, whether you see them or not, whether you hear them or not, they were still people.
That's right.
If
That's
they were
right. It's a human
crabby,
life.
if they
It's a
were
human life.
crabby, if they were happy, if they were 2 or if they were 200, they still deserve respect. Because
That's right.
without them, you wouldn't be here.
Yes.
Yep, I agree.
Even if you're not related, somewhere down the line you're related, you wouldn't be here.
That's right.
What kind of camera do you use, if you don't mind me asking?
I have a Canon. Actually, it's downstairs. I have a Canon 420, and I stick strictly to Canons. I mean, I have night vision on it. It's video. It's got I got probably 14 different settings on it, and that's the only camera I have right now. I've had that for probably 2 years, and like I said, I'm diehard Canon.
And of course, making sure if you're going to take the pictures, making sure you've got the right lighting, make sure it's in focus.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I mean, because that's one thing that people, because of the way we're networked on Facebook, people all the time, or either to Kim or myself, are always sending us pictures. Well, what do you think? Do you see this? And when they send you something that's blurry and out of focus, you're like, hey.
And don't send me nothing with a circle around it.
Yeah, really.
Seriously.
Oh
A
my
circle
God.
doesn't mean it's there.
That's right. Yes, I've seen those plenty of times too.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you see? I see a circle.
Yes.
What do you see inside the circle? Dark.
Yeah. It's imagination.
Yeah.
Runs wild.
Yes, it does. And we're not even going to get started on orbs. We're not even going to
Yeah.
go there.
Yes.
But if someone does send you something, at least try to be respectful. Don't sit there and say, hey, you dumb, blah, 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 idiot. You don't know what the heck you're doing.
Right.
Be nice about it.
Yep. That's the way I look at it too. I mean, everybody has, their own opinion. I don't do, down anybody, for what they see. Maybe they see it. I don't see it, but I don't down them for anything that they say.
I just wish they'd share some of what they've got so I could see what they see.
Well, my favorite
That's all I'm
rant
gonna say
is
with that.
my favorite rant is the one who had taken the pictures in the rainstorm of the road.
Yeah.
Well, it had
Yes.
3 really bright spots on it. One was rather interesting because it was up above the water. Like it had bounced, but there was a reflection on the water of it. And I still know it's moisture. I still know, it's the refraction from the light, and it's. And I tried to explain that to this person, and the person right behind me said, "What kind of a crackhead idiot do you got to be to think you got something?" And I'm like, "Really? You're not helping. If you're going to comment, at least give them something to work with. Don't sit there and cut them down. There's no point in that.
Keep the bad comments to yourself.
If you ain't got nothing nice to say,
that's right.
Don't say nothing
don't
at all.
Say it. That's it.
And I don't remember Thumper saying if you eat your greens, you get great big feet or something like that.
All right.
It was clover.
Oh, okay.
Clover, yes. I was thinking that, yes.
Because he prefers the flowers, but Daddy said you had to eat the whole thing.
I know.
Yes, I'm a play baby, and
Have you got any major plans for 2013? Since it's obvious we're going to make it that far, do you have any plans for 2013 that you want to let everybody know about?
Actually, yes, I do. I have a couple grave sites that I want to see that I definitely have on my list. I want to go to Southern Ohio and see the grave site of Annie Oakley.
Ooh.
I want to see her grave site. And, oh boy, I had another one on my list. I just went blank on it. But yeah, Annie Oakley's grave site is, and James Dean. I've had James Dean grave site on my mind for the last 5 years. I've never made it there, and I want to see James Dean's grave and Annie Oakley's grave.
I want to go to the main one out there in Hollywood. I can't remember the name of it.
Hollywood Forever?
Hollywood Forever, that's it. Thank you very much.
There's another one, too. It's some kind of like Heaven's Gate or Whispering Winds or something like. I can't remember the name.
But I mean, that's the one that obviously you see all the TV shows about, because there's so many. Basically, there's so many famous people and producers that have seen stuff there. That they've done the shows multiple times.
The bad thing about that, though, is they say you're not allowed to take pictures. People do take cameras in, but I've also heard that they claim that security guards actually follow you around, and if you're caught taking pictures, they'll give you the option to either leave or they will issue a fine to you.
That's just ridiculous, though.
They let you take pictures when they were alive.
Right, and to me, that's not right.
It's not like the flash would bother them.
Well, it's one of those things. That is what they lived for. That is what they did.
Right.
So it would just continue on in their afterlife.
Next form.
Right.
Yep, I agree. Yes.
I don't know. I want to go to Marie Laveau.
Yeah, I want to go. I want to go to New Orleans pretty bad myself.
Oh yes, that's another one I'd like to go to. In time. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's
I'd like to go to Pierre Lachaise Cemetery in France and see Jim Morrison's grave. Yeah. That's kind of like a bucket list deal, but probably will never happen.
Isn't he buried? It's not Edgar Allan Poe. Who is Jim Morrison's buried next to a famous poet, and I can't remember who it is.
Yes, he is. I can't think of who it is either.
No, Edgar Allan Poe is in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's not Poe.
I want to say he was English, but I can't remember who it is.
Yeah.
I'll have to go look that up.
Is
That's
going
to bother me. No, it wasn't Dickens. It was one of the poets. I'd have to go look it up. Anyway, he's buried next to a famous poet. If you don't believe me, look it up. Google it.
Well, a couple of our friends went this summer to Norway and went to the Titanic cemetery.
Oh man, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
It was, and they're like, "What do you want us to get you?" A picture of Jack Dawson's grave, and I got it.
Yeah.
Oh boy!
Yeah, but
now that would be something.
Well, like we mentioned to you earlier off camera, we there in Calvary, we actually have a picture of the gravestone of the father that actually performed the exorcism
in 1945
of the story that started the Exorcist, because it wasn't a little girl; it was actually a little boy.
Who is still alive.
Who's still alive, by the way.
Yes.
The boy is still alive?
Yes. He lives in New England now, but
He's-
he is still
Yeah,
alive.
he's 80 something, I think.
Yeah, but there's
the
also
famous ones that I'm sorry.
but there's also Tennessee Williams. There's also William Tecumseh Sherman, who burnt down Atlanta, and like I said, right out of my head, what was it? The Dred Scott verdict. Dred Scott was buried there,
Yeah.
which was
Okay.
the first slave to be emancipated.
And the probably the first colored person to be buried in that cemetery,
And
too.
probably the first black person to ever go to court legally without being a criminal.
Right.
And that was in this. He went to court in the old courthouse in St. Louis. So he eventually they moved him to be buried with his wife, but he was buried there.
The celebrity graves, I guess you could say that I've actually been to. I've been to Jack Ruby's grave, Al Capone's grave. I've been to Red Fox's grave. I've been to Jay Sebring's grave, who was a victim of the Manson family. He's buried in Dearborn, Michigan. Up here, his real name was Thomas Coomer, and when he moved to Hollywood, he changed his name to Jay Sebring. And he was with Sharon Tate the night she was killed, and for his burial, they brought him back to Dearborn, Michigan. And I've been up to, I wanted to say, just the other side of Brighton, Michigan, is a cemetery which has Mickey Hughes buried in it. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the movie The Burning Bed. That
Yep.
played Farrah Fawcett. Mickey Hughes was the guy that had abused her, and she had torched him in the house.
Yes.
And I had located his grave up there, and I didn't know, but the memorial for where the house stood was right around the corner, and I didn't realize that when I was there, or I would also seen that. And ironically, his parents lived right beside of the house, and his mother is still alive, and she still lives in the same house right beside of where she had burned the house down.
Wow. I think Lizzie Borden would be another one on my list to see.
Oh yeah, most definitely, yes, yes.
I've been. My grandma got me hooked on her movie when I was real little, so I followed that forever. Just haven't got there.
Yeah, when we went to Salem, and then when we got back, I didn't realize how close we was to the Lizzie Borden house. Or we would have made the stop. Like I said, didn't realize it till we got home.
Yeah, doesn't that irritate you? You get home and you're
Yes.
like, oh, well, why didn't you just stop here? It was like 6 blocks from there, and it's like, oh, where were you before I left?
Yeah,
I've been to the Dakota building. I stood in the doorway where John Lennon was assassinated. That was very, very emotional.
Right. If I had to pick one place for me personally, I think I'd like to go to Villisca and go see the graves up there.
Oh, yeah.
Where at?
Villisca
Oh.
Axe House.
Axe
Yes.
Murder House.
Yes, the Axe Murder House. Yes, in Iowa.
Yes.
We're real good friends with Johnny Hauser, who
Lives next door.
actually lives next door and runs the location, and makes films and whatnot. But I'd like to go see the graves there because I think it'd just be because the Villisca House is one of the great. How can we say this? There's no way the Villisca House could ever be faked. I can
Right.
Put that.
Oh yeah, right.
It's
right.
one of those. It's one of those locations. It's kind of untouchable.
We have a very small country graveyard that would fascinate you. The first female American serial killer, Bertha Gifford,
Oh yes.
is buried in Morris Mills, Missouri. Now, where her grave sits, she was eventually accused of murdering 19. She pretended to be a country doctor of sorts and fed children chocolate with arsenic in it. She killed her first husband. She killed I think her victims were between 19 months and 72 years old. She is married dead center. They surround her.
And her name is.
Bertha Gifford.
Okay.
But
'Cause I know just outside of Chicago was the Belle Guinness story. You know, she was one of America's first female serial killers also, Belle Guinness. And they claimed that, you know, she had killed her husband, she had killed her children, and they claimed she killed herself, but when they found her body, there was no head on the body, so they never identified her.
Right.
As her being, actually.
Well, she was actually convicted of 3, but they said because of mental instability, she couldn't go to jail, so she actually passed away in Missouri's mental institution number 2.
Yeah.
But I find it very interesting that they literally buried her completely surrounded by her victims.
Which means they basically saved a spot for her in the middle because she died last.
Yeah. Yes. Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool.
That would be interesting. Yes.
Morris Mills.
Yes.
That cemetery is interesting. The location, it's okay.
And that's where? Oh.
Morris Mills, Missouri. Morse.
Like the code.
Yes.
The property is great. The owner who owns
Yeah, he's a tool.
the guy who owns the property stinks,
Yeah,
but
he's a tool.
the cemetery, I mean, it's probably 40 or 50 graves total.
Mm-hmm.
But her 19 victims and her is half the graveyard.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, Dan, as much as I hate to do this to you, sir, we are getting kind of near the end of things here. People can find you on Facebook.
Yes, like I said, under my name, Dan Clay, C-L-A-Y, and one does say, well, like I said, my son's has the logo 419. Mine has me standing beside of a gravestone. Mm-hmm. So that's me.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me on.
Happy holidays, Merry Hanukkah.
Yes.
Happy Festivus to the rest of us.
You know,
right. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and everything else to you and your wife, your family. You know, and thank you guys very much for this.
Thank you so much.
pleasure.
We finally had someone who was
creepy and likes to be in graveyards too.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
And once again, to all our viewers, you guys be safe this holiday season. You won't see us until after Christmas, so be safe.
But tune in. There's still stuff going on.
Yeah. PEMA TV won't be back till after Christmas.
Well, that's because Christmas is Tuesday.
Friday, yeah. Right. Well, that's what I meant.
All right.
I can't believe I had to explain that.
Say good night.
Good night, Gracie.
Good night.